Hey, this is the national treasure, Nick Aldis, and you're listening to the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We're your host. He's the Stallion. I'm the Enforcer. And this week, we have a very special guest. You know her as the Renaissance Woman, Hyan. Thank you so much for joining our show tonight. I know you had a very busy week, and you have a very busy week coming up. So thank you so much for taking time out of your daily routine.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Listen, I don't know if I can't say the pandemic is over, but when we have a weekend like we have coming up in the world of professional wrestling, it kind of feels that way. Of course, I'm talking about GCW's The Collective, and I would love to get to that. But first, how did you manage the last 8 months of what seems like purgatory of life? What were you doing? How were you keeping busy? How were you training? What'd you wind up doing?
It was honestly, on paper, it was really rough, but I was living it and that was okay because I was actually living in Chicago when it started, and I'm originally from Houston, and I noticed and I was able to work from home, so I had the option to just go back home to Texas and just deal with the pandemic there, but I ended up moving to Peoria, which is a smaller town in between Chicago and St. Louis. So I was able to save up a bunch of money because obviously, we're not driving anywhere, can't do a bunch of stuff. I ended up quitting my job and living the unemployed life and being happy. And I just started a new job. But in Peoria, there's not a lot of local wrestling schools. So I've had to find some an hour away or so to just get some ring time. But overall, besides wrestling not being a weekly thing for me as much anymore, life has not been, horrifically bad for me. I can't complain.
That's awesome. And living the unemployed life, finding a new job, moving, you picked one heck of a year to do all those things. That is congratulations to you. And it sounds like it's working out pretty well.
It is. I'm happy.
It's funny you said you found a new job because there is a fantastic article out on you. I think it's Bleacher Report. It says Geico employee by day, pro wrestler by night.
Mm-hmm.
How did that article come about, and what was that experience like working with Bleacher Report? That's a big name publication.
See, so it's so funny because at the time I didn't know how big Bleacher Report was. So they were just like, hey, we want to do this article on you. I said, yeah, sure, whatever.
Right.
So I did it, and it blew up really big. Because, I was working for Geico at the time. Geico kind of has a social media monitoring system. So if they see Geico popping up on social media randomly, they're like, what's going on? Why are people talking about Geico? So they caught wind of that, corporate headquarters caught wind of that. So I actually had to get called into the HR office, and they're like, so we saw your article, you're not in trouble, but could you give us a heads up beforehand? And I was like, oh, I didn't know it was gonna get this big, so my bad.
Wow, listen, there's Big Brother everywhere. I guess Geico, whatever they see, their name in the hashtag, and that's so funny. Yeah. And now, AEW shows are on BR Live from Bleacher Report. So yeah, Bleacher Report is everywhere. So that's cool. Was Geico the job that you quit, you said?
No, I quit that job before I went to Japan because obviously I was there for 3 months, so I couldn't keep a normal corporate job. And then once I got back to the States, I moved to Chicago. And I was working for a smaller insurance company there.
Awesome. That's cool. Well, it seems like it allows you to follow your dream and do everything you're doing right now. And in that article from Bleacher Report, they were talking about how you started wrestling when you were in college, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that how you found Booker T School?
Yeah. So I did a show, or I got tickets to go to TLC, the pay-per-view for WWE. And it was a Christmas present. I was so excited to go. And I was like, let me just make a weekend out of it. So I was like, let me see what other wrestling there is in the area. Just so happens that Reality of Wrestling was running their Christmas Chaos show, which at the time was like the biggest show of the year, the day before. So I go to the show, and I guess I was expecting bad wrestling because I was like, it's not WWE, so like, what could it be?
It's an indie show. They gotta suck, right?
Yeah, I had never been to an indie show at that point. And so I go to the show, like I'm totally blown away. Everybody did an amazing job. Book and Stevie Ray were there, so I like cornered him after the show and was like, how do I do this? I want to do this. And I had always wanted to do it like as a kid, but it's like how do you become a wrestler? You know what I mean? Like you go to school to become like a doctor. You do this to be, you know, whatever. And I never understood like the path to it until like it was right in front of me, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I asked Booker about it, and he's like, join my school. So I said, cool. And I think I started the school maybe like 2 or 3 months later after I had enough money.
Wow, and Booker T's school has really, in Reality of Wrestling, they have such a good YouTube channel, and they have a lot of talent that passes through their doors. And I don't think a lot of people, when you talk about professional wrestling schools, I don't think they talk about Booker T's school enough.
They really don't.
No,
I'm a huge proponent of Reality of Wrestling and Booker T school and how amazing it is. And the training that we get is like top tier, and nobody understands it. Truly, nobody understands how good Reality of Wrestling is until they actually go, and then their minds are completely blown. It's literally like a mini performance center. And Jimmy Jacobs went down there one time for a Rise seminar that they were holding at the World Gym Arena. And I was talking to him later about it, and he had videos of himself like walking through the school because he's like, this place is amazing. Like,
yeah, and the television show, you know, it looks so, you know, it's a very professionally done television show with great talent. Speaking of Reality of Wrestling, last night, we're going a little off topic. Ember Moon came back at NXT. You have to be stoked about that.
I was watching it, and I literally screamed. I literally screamed because I looked up to her so much when she was like on the independent scene. She was like from Row, and you know, she runs a school in Dallas, or Denton, which is like northwest of Dallas. And so I was in Texas in August, and she comes to a lot of independent shows too, and like we'll watch our stuff and like critiques it. So like I've seen her around a lot. And so she hit me up on Twitter, and she was like, hey, you're going to be in town soon? I said, yeah, I'm actually going to go to Texas in August. She was like, I'd love for you to come like check out my school. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to her school, and it was amazing.
That's awesome. And she's such, you know, it was a good surprise. I don't think it was one that really anybody thought, and it injected so much life into NXT's women's division, which I think is going to be great. And it's going to be good to see Ember Moon back on TV after the Raw and SmackDown tenure. I think she's better suited for NXT, and I think there's a lot more capable women in there. So we're going to see some good matches from her. Mm-hmm. So you said it didn't take you that long to sign up for Booker T school, and you thought about it since you were a kid. So I'm assuming you were a pretty big professional wrestling fan growing up.
Yeah, and my whole family's a bunch of wrestling fans too. Like, my family's Mexican; they're from Mexico, and my mom would tell me stories about how my grandpa would just like come home from work on the weekends and go to a local wrestling show. And it wasn't until maybe like a couple of years ago, my mom's like, yeah, I used to go to the Sam Houston Coliseum downtown to go watch wrestling shows. Like, me and your aunts would all go together. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And for Paul Bosch's promotion, which like Booker T is like super about. And so my aunt whips out these photos, and turns out my mom has like all these pictures with like Eddie Guerrero, Hulk Hogan, like all of these people. Like, she went to all the shows, took pictures with everybody. I was like, why are you just telling me this now? Turns out I have a cool parent, and just found out about it.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, and those old retro pictures, people would love those. Have you shared any of those on social media?
Oh, I haven't. I need to go back. I'm going back home in November, so hopefully I'll be able to steal some or take some pictures of it. I think my aunt has like a majority of them, But yeah, no, I got to see the whole lineup of them just meeting wrestlers. So I guess I was just born to do it.
Yeah, listen, some things you can't control, and it's just in the blood. That's awesome. So growing up, who was your favorite?
Growing, I loved John Cena growing up. I was such a
Come
John
on.
Cena fan.
No, it's okay.
I had like the biggest crush on John Cena growing up.
I have a bro crush on John Cena too. I completely understand. He's the man. He's great at everything he does. He's great looking. He's a great actor. He's a great wrestler. I'm super jealous, so it's okay.
But I was like a SmackDown person. I was like, so all the wrestlers on SmackDown were
Undertaker, Batista, those kind of guys.
Ray,
Okay.
Eddie, Kurt, Brock Lesnar. Like those were all like SmackDown guys. So like that's what I always watched. I liked Raw too, but Raw was on cable. We didn't have cable.
Yeah, and I mean, SmackDown was more like the actual wrestling show to me. You know, Raw was like the sports entertainment show, and SmackDown, the guys you just mentioned were fantastic.
Yeah. So that's mostly who I grew up watching. But I did obviously catch some Raw stuff too, and I did like Raw, but SmackDown was my favorite.
And, you know, I was just going back and watching some of the stuff over that time period. And, you know, when you have like Undertaker versus Brock in the main event on SmackDown, you just don't see things like that anymore. So SmackDown was really the Wrestlers channel. That was a great show back in the day. So I guess, were you an athlete growing up too? Did you play a lot of sports?
Yes, I played soccer and I was pretty bad at it, actually. I started playing basketball and I was in track when I was in middle school. And I was actually really, really good at track. And it was something that I wanted to do more in high school. But I'm an artist at heart. So I stuck with being in the band over being in sports. So, you know, I played my saxophone all through high school. And I wish I would have done wrestling in high school because we had a women's wrestling team.
Wow, that is unheard of. That's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I would have done it, but like I was just like, oh, I want to play my saxophone.
Listen, wrestling is a creative outlet. Just because it's a physical creativity, it's still creative, you know? So you have that, you get to express yourself now in a different way creatively than per se with a saxophone.
Right.
So how long after you were training at Booker T's school did you start professionally wrestling?
So I didn't honestly have like a singles match until maybe like 1.5 to almost like 2 years of training, which is like really long compared to like other people. People are like, oh, you had like 6
3
months
months
of training.
Yep.
Yeah, like 6 months, 3 months of training. I had my first match. I was like, oh no, I had to wait like 1.5 years. And that was because like, and they still kind of operate this way in that like, you have to get like the stamp of approval from like the trainers and Book, like you are good to go. And Book has a very high standard of giving you that stamp of approval of ready to go, because we'll have guys have their first match on, you know, Reality of Wrestling, and it's produced, it's on YouTube. Like, you know, we have live streaming services on it too. So you want to have like the best of the best on the show. To make it on the show, to have the first match on the show,
right?
It's like you are typically better than the rest of the indie talent, which I think actually, although it took me a long time to have my first match, I think it ultimately helped me a lot, because my first match wasn't like horrifically bad, like how people like to describe their first matches. And I felt like I was a lot more fundamentally sound and had like a better head on my shoulders to be able to do the matches that I was, you know, that I can do now.
Sure. And I mean, for a guy like Booker T, if putting his name on you, that's, you know, you don't want to, you're not going to slap your name on something and then go out and have that, you know, reflect negatively on you. And I think you could be ready physically, but being ready mentally, like you mentioned, is a totally different game. And you weren't wrestling all that long before you popped up on Monday Night Raw.
I really was not. I don't know.
Yeah. And I was looking into that. I was like, that's, I mean, I don't want to say into the frying pan, out of the frying pan into the fire? Was that the expression? But how did you get that opportunity? I know the show was in Houston. Was it just, you know, we need somebody that we trust to come out here, and that's how you got the call?
No. So my trainer had ended up moved to Florida. The guys that had like trained me from the start. And one of them like called me one day and was like, "Hey, have you been watching Raw lately?" And I was like, "Oh, not really. I have, been busy." And he's like, "Oh, because Nia Jax has been like wrestling like these local talents. Like, would you want to do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that would be pretty cool." And he goes, "Okay, cool. Let me give you this email address. Email them, tell them that you're in Houston and that, you want to do extra work." So I did that, and I kind of wasn't expecting anything because I was like, who am I? So I got an email back being like, "Okay, like come to Raw and SmackDown for these dates." And, I went there, I go see the other extras, and I'm the only girl. And I didn't know if they were going to do the spot with her. I think because they knew I was one of Booker's kids, that they were like, "Okay, like we know that she can bump." So like,
right.
all we really
we
needed
trust
to
her.
do. Yeah. And so, yeah, they ended up picking me, and it was crazy. It was cool.
Now, Nia Jax has come under fire a lot. A lot of people are like, "Oh, she's whatever in the ring." What was your experience like with her? I know it was 2 minutes long, but did you feel comfortable in the ring? Was she good to work with?
Yeah, she's really really nice, like really really nice. And I think she was just like, I remember she was like, "Okay, go get your makeup done afterwards." After we kind of had like talked about what we are gonna do, she's like, "Go get your makeup done," and I was like about to go, and then I look at her and she looks at me, and I'm like, "You're not ribbing me, right? Like I'm actually allowed to go sit down in the makeup place. Like they're not gonna look at me like, what is this like extra doing here?" She goes, "No, I'm being serious. You can go." And I was like, "Okay, thank you."
That's a fair question. I think that.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. We had Heather Monroe on recently, and she wrestled Nia Jax as well, and she had nothing but glowing things to say about her. So it's good to hear that. Believe it or not, the internet can be a cruel and unusual place. So for people that have firsthand experience with Nia Jax, there you go. She's great to work with, and she's like the nicest person. So hopefully
She's
that puts some.
very nice.
Yeah, she's super nice. So, I mean, from your spot on Raw, I would say 2018, 2019, you were wrestling a lot, and you've wrestled some of the biggest names in not only women's wrestling, but in wrestling period. I believe you wrestled Ricky Starks earlier this year as well. You've been in the ring with, Kimberly, Kelly Klein, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. Who was the most fun opponent, and why was it Kylie Rae?
Me and Kylie, dang. Me and Kylie haven't wrestled each other in years. And I would love to like get in the ring with her again, just because when we wrestled each other, we were such, like looking back now, like we were such babies. And we still had a really good match, but we were such babies. And I'm like, imagine like what we could do now.
Yeah, you had 2 good matches with her, right? That you wrestled her twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Reality of Wrestling, they have I don't know if, I'm sure you've seen it, but a YouTube video of your highlights in all of your matches, and the match with Kylie Rae was fantastic, and that was what, 3 years ago? I think it was almost 3 years.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago.
So that would be a match that we would love to see again. I know you've been doing a lot of work in AAW. You're coming off of what, last week you wrestled the first match since what, the pandemic started?
Yes, my first time back with AAW since it started. Which, oh my god, I was so upset because right before COVID, I was challenging Chris Statlander to the AAW Women's Championship, and then everything got shut down, everything got canceled. So I'm glad everything's back, and we're starting to pick up right where we left off. I know she's injured, but hopefully, we can finally have that singles match.
Yeah, I mean, she just posted videos, I think, last week of her doing like one-legged squats and stuff like that. So hopefully that is right around the corner. And speaking of Chris Statlander, you defeated her for the Heart of Shimmer Championship, I believe.
Yes.
And now we're not over the pandemic, so nobody get crazy, but wrestling is back. And what was supposed to be taking place during WrestleMania weekend is Game Changer Wrestling's The Collective. I believe I could be wrong, 11 shows over 3 days in Indianapolis. Is that true?
Correct.
How much fun is that going to be, considering all we've dealt with so far this year, and to be able to get back to something like that? You have to be looking forward to it.
I'm excited to see like my friends that I haven't seen in a long time, but it is also kind of nerve-wracking in a way, because I was actually in Indiana 2 weeks ago at a show, and it was at the show kind of took place at a fair. So it wasn't like a wrestling, like everybody there was a wrestling fan. It was like other people, and then there's wrestling here too. And nobody was wearing a mask. Oh my gosh, and that stressed me out so much. I actually got booed for putting a mask on, mind you.
No, come on. Are you serious?
I'm being serious. And so, although I am excited to see all my friends and get in the ring and have some bangers, I'm also still very nervous because Indiana is essentially fully open, like as if it never happened. They have no restrictions on anything. So it makes me a little bit scared because, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get my boyfriend sick. And just trying to be socially responsible, not just for myself, but like to other human beings, not get sick. So although, I get to see everybody, I will be very cautious around everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's twofold. I didn't know Indiana. I'm from New York, and in New York, I mean, I can barely open my front door without wearing a mask. So it's a little bit different over here. What is Indiana like? I'm sorry, Chicago is and Illinois. Is that the same way with the mask restrictions, or?
I feel like in Chicago, they take the mask more seriously. It is more of like a liberal city. Peoria is a smaller town, so they haven't been hit not nearly as bad as like the bigger cities. But I mean, people are still getting sick here. People also are not taking the mask mandate as seriously as I feel like they should be in Peoria. But when I went into Indiana, I was like, holy shit. Like, no one's wearing a mask. Like, I could count on one hand the number of people that weren't wearing a mask.
And you got booed for putting one on, so that kind of tells you
what. Putting one on.
Listen, if you're looking to draw heat, I guess, if you want to be the heel that night, all you got to do is go in the ring and spray everybody with Lysol. I think that would be a great gimmick.
I know, I'm the heel.
You're the bad guy.
I'm being the socially responsible heel by putting a mask on. And I'm getting booed. And she took the mask off me and they cheered.
I guess that makes sense why the collective is running in Indianapolis this weekend. I didn't realize that was the case there, but that might be the only place. And I guess I understand both sides of it because everybody's got to make money and there's been such a lull in this. So I am just hoping that everybody stays safe. Everybody does what they have to do. And, maybe not what they have to do, maybe what they should do. And just wear a mask, take care of yourselves this weekend. There is some very good wrestling going on, as we did mention. It's you and Laney Luck, I believe, who was on our show a couple weeks ago, versus Blair Onyx and Elena Black at Glory Pro Wrestling. And then you're going to be defending the Heart of Shimmer title at Shimmer.
Yes.
Do we know who you're wrestling at Shimmer?
Not quite yet. Shimmer does this amazing thing where they don't tell me who I'm wrestling until I walk into the building.
Awesome. Okay.
But I think now they're trying to put out some matches out before the show and then kind of have like your standard, you find out as you go during the show. So I'm pretty sure mine will get announced pretty soon. I can't say who it will be.
Okay.
But I know there will be an announcement.
I was just looking up the list of people that are going to be on the show. I see Kimberly. I see Allison Kay. Is there anybody that you would like to defend your title against without spoiling anything?
Anybody? Honestly, I'm just happy to wrestle anybody that I've never wrestled before. Truly. So anybody who's never been in the ring together, I'm all about first-time matchups.
Okay.
So if I can have a first-time matchup, whoever it is, I'll be happy.
Okay, well, so who haven't you wrestled yet then ever that you're watching their stuff and you're like, man, I'd love to get in the ring and have a match with blank? Who would it be?
Faye Jackson.
Right off the top of your head, Faye Jackson, awesome. We've seen her a bunch in the Shine promotion. She is very, very entertaining. She's very good in the ring. That's is she on the card? Let's see here. I don't see her on the Shimmer card. Okay, all right.
I told her. I was like, we need to wrestle each other, and it's I don't know. I feel like there's just so many people that I have never wrestled that I need, like, I feel like I need to get in the ring with them. And then also people that we've wrestled maybe once or twice that we just like had magic. And I'm like, I just want to keep doing this over and over again.
Sure. I mean, like you mentioned, Kylie Ray, you guys had a great match, and that was years ago. So I'm sure there would be, even better matches in the future. Just looking at the Shimmer card here, we have Marty Bell, Holly Dead, Solo Darling, Willow Nightingale, Davey N. So a ton of talent on the Shimmer show this week. And the only match listed right now is Kimberly versus Nicole Savoy for the Shimmer World title. So it's Shimmer at the Collective, Sunday, October 11th. Everybody check it out. It's on Fight TV. Now, let me ask you, this is between myself and Joe, the co-host of the All Night Long Wrestling podcast, there has been a long-standing divide between us, and it's it's like the Civil War between Joe and I. We've known each other 20 years. There's one question. Mm-hmm. All time, let me ask you, I need your opinion here. All time, if one of them had to go and you could only save one professional wrestler, would it be Shawn Michaels or would it be Bret Hart?
Ooh. That is a hard one. That is a hard one. Whoa, this is hard.
I know. This has almost broke up our friendship several times.
I have to save one. I'd have to save Shawn Michaels. And the tiebreaker was he has a better entrance music. That's the tiebreaker.
Wait, hold on. You think Shawn Michaels had better entrance music than Bret Hart? The Sexy Boy is iconic, but when Bret and the Hart Foundation's music hit, I'm devastated.
That was the tiebreaker. I mean, they're both amazing wrestlers. I actually just watched Shawn versus Owen Hart. I think it was Raw in '94. I literally watched this match like 2 days ago. Shawn.
So then the question doesn't count because you have a Shawn Michaels match fresh in your head. If you were to go back and watch WrestleMania 10, Bret versus Owen Hart, you probably would have said Bret Hart.
I mean, I liked Bret Hart versus Chris Benoit in WCW. That's one of my favorite matches too.
Okay. All right. Listen, we've asked literally hundreds of guests, and I think 4 people have chosen Bret Hart. One of them being me, one of them is Solo Darling, and everybody else has chosen Shawn Michaels. So I was just hoping I had another.
I mean, there's really no wrong choice here, guys. They're both.
According to Eric Bischoff, there was a wrong choice because he hated Bret Hart, but aside from that, most people were like, no, it's Shawn Michaels pretty evenly. I don't know. I'm just more of a technical wrestling guy. Maybe that's what it is. But I do love them both. But for me, it's going to be Bret Hart. So let me ask you, where can we keep up to date with what you have going on following along this weekend? As I said earlier, Fight TV. Very simple app to download. It's going to have Shimmer at the Collective Sunday, October 11th at 4 p.m. You could buy the package of the Game Changer Wrestling, the Collective all weekend. I think it's $120 or so. But if you've been missing professional wrestling during the pandemic and you want to give back to the companies and give back to the professional wrestlers, do so at Fight TV this weekend and enjoy Twitter it, tweet it, Insta, Facebook, whatever the kids do, at it, hashtag it. Make sure you're following along. And where can we follow along with you this weekend?
I will be at Glory Pro, tagging with my best friend Lainey Luck, and I will be at Shimmer. If you want to know what else is going on in my life, my Twitter is _ the Hyan, and Instagram is just the Hyan.
Well, we thank you so much for your time. We wish you nothing but the best of luck this weekend. I will be watching. I've already purchased the package from Fight TV. I would like you to be safe, and regardless if you come out with a mask or not, you will be the good guy to me. If you are listening to this show and you're going this weekend, guys, wear a mask. Keep some Purell. Don't touch people and stay socially distant and have a great time, because ideally what we'd like to do is get over this and have more professional wrestling in the future. So best of luck to you this weekend, Hyan. We appreciate your time and we can't wait to speak to you again.
Thank you so much. You guys have an awesome day.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Best friends.